That was horrible.
Final Fantasy VII.
Seek me out. Look at me. I'm all the fishes in the sea.
The one thing I want to start with, though, is that this is the fan favorite. Mm-hmm. Everyone loves this game.
There's a company called Shinra that is destroying the planet by extracting something called Mako from it, which basically is the same thing as fossil fuels. If you think of it that way, it's a lot easier. The main character is like trying to stop them with the help of this rebellion that he didn't even start. He's not interested in. They're just paying him to be part of it. At the beginning, anyway. But Aerith, who is about 22, is the last surviving member of this race. As you can see here, she is a flower peddler in the slums, and she has great magic powers, and she's in love with the main hero. And she's pretty much the damsel. She's constantly getting, like, kidnapped and saved by him, even from her first appearance. She's traditionally feminine, and she also, in a controversial move that is considered one of the reasons why this is a landmark, she is killed, like, a third through the game by the villain. But the only real thing that prevents her, I think, from being a traditional, like, damseled, killed, woman in a refrigerator, is that at the end of the game, her spirit, which is part of the planet now that she's died, saves the entire world.
Oh.
That's her.
That isn't as pretty. But she isn't over-sexualized.
No.
I like her combat boots.
But it sounds like her story makes up for the fact that she isn't over-sexualized.
Yeah. She's pretty much constantly treated as the Virgin Mother.
She's so pure the whole time. Then we have the
Tifa.
Yeah,
she's one of the more controversial figures as far as feminism goes. So Tifa is totally the foil to Aerith. She's also in love with the hero. But she's part of the rebellion that he joins and doesn't really give a shit about.
She's actually one of like the key members of the rebellion. She owns the bar where the rebellion meets.
Yeah. And she is also a fighter. And when I say a fighter, she doesn't use weapons, she uses her fists. But she's one of the most overly sexualized female characters in video games, and infamously so. And you will see when you look at her picture.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yep.
The thing is, I mean, she might be over-sexualized. I mean, look how big her breasts are, right? Yeah. Compared to her waist.
And it's like, how would a fighter who moves that much have breasts that big?
But she is sort of covered in a way that I don't think is... Although, of course, this says a lot about how I've been socialized to see women. But this doesn't... It seems like she's covered. You know what I mean? But, like, even though, like, also, how long are her legs?
Yeah, if you like, mentally fix her proportions...
Yeah.
She's still, like, those shorts are still really short.
Yes.
And those boobs are still really big.
Yeah. I mean, your eyes are drawn immediately to her boobs. Her breasts are the source of her power! She's not wearing impractical shoes.
Yeah.
But then again, her legs are so long and...
Yeah, and skinny.
Her tits are enormous. And she's just sort of expressionless.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And look at how skinny her little waist is. I'm just like, whatever. And she's just not as pretty as the other ones that you had shown me, Laura.
I think that's partially to the tone of the game. Near the end of the game, Tifa and Scarlet get in a fight on top of a giant cannon, and it's a slap fight. They just slap each other. What? Like,
especially if one is meant to be like a fighting martial arts
and
sort of trained
Tifa should have had her like taken care of immediately.
Yeah. Because Scarlet's
that makes me more angry than the way that her character is sexualized.
Scarlet's a bureaucrat.
I kind of love it for the camp value, but it is incredible.
I mean, it is great camp value.
They're on a giant phallic symbol and they're slapping each other.
I'm so fancy. You already know I'm in the fast lane. From LA to Tokyo.
Final Fantasy VIII.
This is the game that takes place in the future. Like
it's all sci-fi.
The other games are more like steampunky.
There are these women called sorceresses, and they're these women with incredible magic powers bestowed upon them. So Rinoa is the main female protagonist. She is a sorceress, but she doesn't know that when you first meet her, and you don't know it.
She's kind of a brat. She's
spoiled.
She's raised. She's the daughter of the general of the bad guys. She hates her dad. Joins a resistance faction to like liberate one small city.
But she doesn't really understand the implications of her actions.
And she's not really good at it.
Mm. She's a sorceress, And throughout the game, other sorcerers are trying to take her over, basically. So she's kind of... I think what's interesting is she's being damseled, but by other women.
You know, that's problematic too.
So this is her.
She looks like, well, first of all, she
I
looks
think
like an
she's gorgeous.
actual human.
She does.
She looks like
So she's based on
an
actual
airbrushed person. And her
Great
clothes
is.
look like something you could possibly see a very fashion-forward person wearing on the street.
I do think it's interesting that the theme of being a sorceress is kind of in her clothing. Like, she looks like she could be a modern day, like, sorceress on, American Horror Story.
Yeah, yeah.
So you talk about Quistis, because I know you like her.
I do like Quistis.
I love Quistis.
So Quistis is the oldest of the mercenaries. She's only like a year older, but she is so like advanced in her training and her schooling that they make her an instructor like super early, and so she's actually training basically all of her peers. So she's the smart one. Like, her special power is to learn the magic that monsters use, and then she sees them do it. It's like, oh, I can do that, and then she does it too.
Oh, cute.
I think it's important that she has glasses, because I've heard about this. It's a particularly anime fetish of women wearing glasses. It's called meganeko.
Oh, I don't think it's particularly anime. I mean, I think there's like a whole, like...
Sexy librarian.
Oh,
But, like, it's a specific character trope of women to wear glasses. Idea is the coolest character in the game, I think, of anyone.
Yes.
She is a sorceress. When we start out the game, she's a sorceress who is manipulating one of the most powerful president in the world.
At the time, yeah.
Like, the president of the most powerful country. And she's depicted as clearly evil and an incredibly powerful sorceress. But I think this is an interesting dichotomy in this game, is like, the powerful woman is evil, right? Like, any woman who has power is evil, but...
Queen of the night.
But except, the person who has been attempting to stop all these powerful women is also one of the powerful women. So I don't think it's necessarily an enormous subversion of the trope, but I think it's an interesting twist.
Here's her as an evil sorceress.
Oh, nice.
I love her outfit. I think
That's
that's
amazing.
fabulous.
She's
It's
incredibly
high
badass.
drag is what it is.
Yes. I love it.
What I get from this is Cruella DeVille.
No, my first name ain't Baby, it's Janet. Miss Jackson if you're nasty. Nasty boys.
So the fun thing about 9 is that it goes back to really medieval, and like it's minus a lot of the sci-fi stuff, and it's like it's like all knights and stuff again, and it's lighter in tone. The characters all look really cartoony, but there are 3 or possibly 4 female characters of the 8.
3 or possibly 4. I like the ambiguity there. That's nice.
There is one non-human character. You're never sure of her sex. I always think of her as female.
I think her as male, actually.
Really?
He said, I think of her as male, which
Although,
I love.
I think it's
Right?
only-
Like, how great is that sentence? I think of her as male. I just want to... I'm just putting that up.
I do think, though, that it doesn't really matter because Quina's development is so non-existent.
Yeah, and what development he or she has is all comedic.
Yeah.
But the other 3 have interesting things about them. First off, you have Garnet, who is the princess character that is in all of these games. She's the daughter of the evil queen, and at the beginning of the game, the cast of main characters that you're controlling at first are all actors, but they're really like thieves. They were just pretending to be actors so they can easily get in, and so they're performing for the court so they can steal things. And in this case, their plan is to kidnap the princess. But then it turns out that she runs away at the same time and is like, "Please kidnap me."
Because her mother is psycho.
Yeah, she's prissy, well-spoken, really well-read. Like, she knows everything about the world that you can know from books, but she doesn't have any practical experience.
Whoa, why is her head so big?
All of their
That's the style.
That's
the
the style of this
animation
game.
style.
All of the heads are big in this game.
Okay.
The men and the women.
So then she has this like moment. She's like, "Oh, I'm the queen of this country now, but I still have to go and help all of the heroes and she cuts her hair
Oh, nice.
as like a
And lowers her collar.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that there are certain cultures, certain people that sort of see a woman's femininity and
Recording
a
check.
woman's womaniness,
Woman.
but not just womaniness,
Okay.
but like her essence in her hair. So like I just think of like the cultures of women who grow their hair long for a reason, not just because it's considered a feminine beauty standard, but because it is just who you are as a woman, and cutting it off is saying, like, I'm not going to conform to that.
So, Freya, intentionally named after the Norse goddess. She's not human. She's this race of, like, humanoid rats. She's a rat. But they're all always shown as super noble. She is the most powerful warrior in her kingdom. I love her.
Ooh.
She's so awesome.
Ooh.
I think another interesting thing
Look
about
at her
her,
feet.
Mm-hmm.
she's a dragoon, which is portrayed as someone who jumps into the air and then like pounces on their enemy from above. So I think what's important to note about her, she's not powerful because of brute strength, but because of skill.
You wouldn't even know that she's feminine in any way. She doesn't appear particularly feminine.
Mm-hmm. And like that bow on her tail, all of the rats have that, male and female.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
I love the ears.
her text is always quasi-Shakespearean compared to the rest. She's just very proper, and she's like, I'm gonna do what I need to do. I'm gonna help you out until I figure out what I need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Beatrix. Okay, there are two orders of knights in the main kingdom of the game. One is ruled by is commanded by one of the male characters that are in your party, and they're always portrayed as like the bumbling, the idiots. They don't know what's going on. And then there's the
Female
like the real knights who are controlled by the commanded by the female commander, and they're male and female.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, they are male and female. But like she's got her shit together, and she's always doing what she thinks is right. And then when she finds out that her queen is like doing wrong things, she's like, oh, okay, well I'm on your side now. Like she's not really one of the main characters. She's a teammate of yours really briefly. She's an awesome fighter, Beatrix.
Oh, cute. You know, I always love the Jessica Rabbit one-eye covered thing.
Although that's probably the only Jessica Rabbit thing about her. Another thing about her character that's interesting, whenever you fight her or use her, she decimates whoever she's fighting.
Yeah,
There's no contest.
You cannot beat her in battle.
You know, having watched all of the Anita Sarkeesian series on women in video games, I find that a lot of these women are not fitting in those same tropes.
Yeah.
That's why we wanted to talk about it.
They're really, and that might very well be why she never talked about it, because they don't fit into what she was talking about as being problems in the industry.
There absolutely are problems, but they're different.
There are problems. There's different problems, but a lot of them are going against.
Yeah.
You know, sort of. I mean, I look at this and I don't think of her as being overly sexualized. I do think of her as being. You know, it's a whole other problem of the women that end up being feminist women end up just portraying masculine traits, and then you're just like, oh, okay, so the thing that is feminist about her is that she's not girly.
I am a master hunter.
Final Fantasy X is my favorite Final Fantasy. This game is interesting because I actually think it doesn't fully fit either of the previous settings of medieval or technological, because they purposefully made this game to be sort of a fantasy version of feudal Japanese culture. So this game plays a lot on Japanese cultural stereotypes of women. One cultural stereotype of women is the domestic woman, the geisha, the woman seen as like the beautiful, servile, quiet, humble, meek woman, domestic woman.
Can I say, while we're recording that, like, while Ramin is talking a lot about this, like, none of us are Japanese, so we haven't experienced this, so we don't know firsthand.
Yes, exactly. I'm only basing what I'm saying off of tropes that occur within Japanese media of entertainment. I'm not...
As viewed from an outsider.
As viewed from an outsider, yes.
Thank you!
Yuna can kind of be seen as that domestic stereotype. However, all of these characters have more layers. Yuna, when you first meet her, she seems very, like, damsel-y, very meek, very quiet.
But, like, I feel like I remember moments where, like, she's, like, at the brink of death, and, like, the dude's like, no, you need to stop and run away or whatever. And she's like, no, I'm like not gonna stop.
Right.
Mm.
And
This is like 10 years ago that I was like
No.
watching somebody else play this game, so like
that's Yuna.
yes. I
And
remember
what's
her.
interesting, I think, is that her costume apparently was inspired. I'm only talking about what I've read through research. Apparently, her costume was inspired by some traditional Japanese elements. Obviously, this is not a traditional Japanese costume.
No, but you can see like the band across her waist.
Oni.
Right, Oni.
That.
However, interestingly enough, she's wearing boots,
The
not high heels.
sleeves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The wrapping of the
Right.
top on the.
Lulu is the badass black mage,
I remember
All
her
tits.
also.
but her cleavage is very much
Yeah.
like, hey, look, cleavage. She's another archetype of quote-unquote Japanese tropes of women, which is called the tsundere. The tsundere is like the fiery woman who may be beautiful, but like is rebellious and feisty and like usually moody. Lulu doesn't fit all those tropes completely, but she's usually that. And she's also, though, I think, the like post of logic in the party.
She's the big sister who knows all the answers.
Right. She's also usually bitchy about doling out
When
the
I
answers.
look at the picture you just saw, she does read older.
Yeah, like they're all pretty close in age in this game.
She's not old.
She reads older.
Yeah.
She reads as, and it's funny because she doesn't read as old, but you know, there's only how many types of women are there in pop culture? There's like
The maiden, the mother, and the
the
crown.
ingenue. Yeah, well, yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. So, you know, so she looks more mothery.
Yeah.
Yeah. She kind of portrays that role a lot of the time.
Yeah. The game makes a point about her being a bitch, but it's very rarely she's wrong.
You
She's
know,
always
that's the
right.
thing about women that are right and have things to say and are authoritative is that they're bitches.
Right. Riku, I think,
Maybe the most problematic in some ways.
in some ways, she first of all, she's 15, she's the youngest, and she's also frequently sexualized in the game. Like, there's one scene,
all the time.
I mean, first of all, that's what she's wearing.
You know what she looks like is the girl on Firefly.
Yep. Kaylee.
Yep.
And she is basically
That's
that type.
where my mind went.
No, she is
first.
absolutely that type. She's the tech geek. Like, she knows
Yeah.
all the machine stuff.
Yeah. She's also very much Manic Pixie Dream Girl. What you find out about her, though, is she's pretty much the victim of racism throughout, because she's part of a race of the Al-Bed, who are kind of analogous to Arabs,
Mm-hmm.
I would say. Like, they're viewed as terrorists, and they're considered, like dirty, and pretty much throughout the game, she has to not only face up against that, but, like, her home is destroyed by the religious cult. Not cult, but the religious order.
So, we have 3 videos from the game.
Okay.
So this is Yuna performing a
Funeral rite.
Funeral rite.
Was she walking on water?
Yep.
The programmers are like, look, we can make water.
And
Hey.
hair.
It's definitely better than 8.
And I feel like she is existing, having not played the game on that virgin whore dichotomy kind of thing.
Can we
On
check?
the virgin
Yeah.
end of it. Do you get
She
that
is.
sense?
No, she
Yes.
is.
And I'm like, fuck the virgin whore dichotomy. Fuck it.
So here's the wedding scene that we talked about earlier when she marries
Right.
the bad guy. That is not a very modest wedding dress.
Oh. Well, they also probably forced her to wear it.
Yeah, because
not
fuck
value
purity.
your
Right.
friends' lives.
Hey, she's willing to sacrifice it. And that's
It's
good.
not a thing to sacrifice.
I agree with you.
Right.
Some people mature young.
What kind of a sound was that?
We're not going to explain the scene before it happens. This is shortly after what we just watched. So she is married.
Maybe I will.
Don't give up your quest just for him. Ugh. I mean, I would recommend that any woman give up for religion, but that's a whole other discussion.
But you just said that she shouldn't, because then she'd give it up for her man. Which you're right.
Oh, Spider-Man up for that kiss.
This is how sex works. I kiss you, and then I just touch.
We float for a while.
I touch your face gently,
You guys know this is how, like, straight people have sex all the time, right?
What they're not making.
And this is how it is every time I do it.
Give me a reason to be a woman.
All he wanted was to make you happy with cheese.